All right, and I'm going to turn myself off. There we go. And we're going to walk through Canvas today. So, like I said, good morning and welcome. This is the level one for Canvas training, and I figured the best way to do this is I'm going to basically walk along with the PowerPoint here. If you want to pull that up, of course, you have access to that already, and then we'll walk through and actually create the course as we go. So let me get this out of the way. Don't judge my desktop because it's quite messy. There we go. And make sure that we're recording. We are. Okay. All right. So as you probably already know and have already been playing around and figuring out, that the very first place that we start is with this address, fc.instructure.com, and everything that we need is, or all of our courses, I should say, are going to be linked to this address. So whether we have our published courses, which are up here at the top, and you can move these around if you wish, or unpublished courses, courses that we've made but nobody can see, we've got those down there at the bottom. If you have a question or something, would you please post them to all the attendees so that we can see them all? So here we are. Like I said, we're inside of our dashboard here, and there's a couple of things on here that you might want to know about as we get started. The first one is over here under this account. Under this account, basically the two big things that you're going to want to know about are these notifications and these profiles. The notifications are exactly what they say they are. They're where you're going to be notified about your Canvas activities. And the frequency with which you get notified can be determined over here. So you see some things, they've got this little key up here, don't send me anything, send weekly summaries, daily summaries, or right away. You can set each of those activities over here in this column. So on this column over here, and I'll just pull this up and sort of give it a little, maybe yellow isn't the best idea, but close enough. You can go through, you can choose what's going to be sent to you and how often that's going to be sent to you. And this is something that you might want to set up prior to school starting. It is, you know, they do have a pretty good idea on most of these things, but it isn't, you can wind up with an awful lot of emails or an awful lot of notifications if you're not, paying attention to it. You got it stuck on the wrong thing. So you might want to check this out first things first, head on over the notifications and decide what's going to be shared with you and what's going to be notified with you. I'll go ahead and get rid of that. And you can see these are quite a handful. Oops. Quite a handful for the number of things that you can be notified for. And then we have our profile over here, your basic profile. If you want to go ahead and upload your picture, that'll be over here. Okay. And then down here on the left-hand side, we have the rest of our global navigation. So these are the things that are going to let you go around all of your courses inside of Canvas, no matter what it is that you're working on. You've got your dashboard. You've got your courses. Now your courses is basically just a list of your dashboard. You've got your published courses up here and your unpublished ones down here. But it's another way to get to your dashboard stuff or get to your courses without having to go to the dashboard first and then go into your course. So if I was in this course here, I could just go to courses and switch between them with this global navigation. We've got our calendar down here. Your calendar is going to be linked with your Google Calendar. Your inbox, which of course is going to be linked with your Gmail account. And then down here you have your comments. Now the Commons is a really cool place. It's a neat place to share stuff. You can create something and share it inside of the Commons, or someone else at your school could create something and share it here, and you could pull it in from your column or from the Commons columns. You could pull it in from the Commons. So it's a way to share things between teachers. You can share things only within the district. You can share things with everybody, that you would like. As you go through here, you can sort through stuff, and there's all kinds of stuff that's been put out here by other teachers. And you can see by the little icon here what it is, whether it's a document, whether it's a module, whether it's a quiz or something like that. So it's a neat place to share things, and it's a neat place to pull in stuff, between you or other teachers, something like that. And that's over here in the Commons. And then I do want to point out the help. So if you click on the help, Canvas has an extraordinary amount of help. All right, they've got Canvas guides, they've got a support hotline. You can even chat with them, right? Now, you've already seen the training services portal that was sent out way back, a couple months, probably maybe a month or two when we first got access to it, started playing around with it. Um, but you can chat with them. It does take a bit if you're going to chat with them. I will say you'll get a countdown and it'll tell you exactly how many people behind you are. So it's not something that you pull it up and, it might be a minute or two. It could be 30 or 40, but you'll have an idea of how long it's going to take. And then you've got your support hotline over there. You can actually call them if you wanted to. But I find the best way is to choose this search the Canvas guides. And if you pull up the Canvas guides, you can go to Canvas and you can choose instructor guide. And they've just redone this, so I'm trying to make sure that all my links work. But you can go through this, and essentially any question that you have, you can search for it, or they've got it broken down into topics, into announcements, into assignments, into attendance. And each one of these, I'll just pick one at random, has screenshots and should show you exactly where it is that you need to go to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. So the assignments the help is a really easy way to find what you're looking for if you need to find something right quick and in a hurry. I'll go ahead and close this out, and we'll head back into Canvas. I'll go back to my dashboard, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the right hand side, and I'm going to make my first course. So I'll start with start a new course. Here I'm going to name this, and I'll just call this WebEx Session 1, and I'll create the course. Okay, so here we are inside of our course, and you'll notice right away that I'm taken up here to the Modules tab. The module is essentially the building block of your course, and by default, it's your homepage. So when you have students, if you just start up a course and send them in, this is where they're going to go unless you tell Canvas otherwise. And like I said, the module is essentially the building block of your course. So whether you set your course up by week or month or year or unit or whatever it is, the modules are going to be the shells that you create to put your assessments and assignments and assets inside of. Up here at the top, we've got our navigation where we can obviously create a new module. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And I'll just call this Unit 1. And notice that I do have the ability to lock this. I can lock it, meaning I can keep people out of it until a certain time. Canvas will automatically unlock it for me. And if I do lock it, it'll give me a notification to let me know that it is locked. And your students also will see that the module is locked up until a certain point. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. I'm going to hit cancel. And I'm going to go ahead and pop into the Canvas number 2 slideshow if you're following along at home. And this one is just, what is a module? That over there. I'll put this over here so I can see what's going on. And once again, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them to all attendees so we can all see. I'm assuming I'm doing okay for everybody, so I'll go ahead and I'll plow ahead. All right, as I mentioned, your modules are basically your building blocks. So whatever you want to break your information into is what you're going to use to organize these modules. Now, if you are a super organized teacher, you may want to start setting these things up, your whole semester at one time. Maybe that's the case. And I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on. But right now, we'll just do it one-on-one. Okay, so I go to plus module. I'll call it module 1. I'll hit add module. Okay, and here is our shell. All right, it's just this one empty shell. There's nothing inside of it. And you can see it tells you here that you can drop files in here to add them, or you can choose them. We're gonna add them a little bit later on. One of the other cool things that you can do inside of your module is you can add a header. So to add things, headers or anything else, I can come to the right-hand side here, and I want to bring your attention to this little section over here. Okay, I've got this plus, and I've got this little like international no sign. That's my publish button, and that's my add button, right? And then of course next to that I have this 3 dots where I can edit things or I can move stuff around. This plus sign and this no sign essentially tell me that whether the course has been published. So if it has been published, if this module has been published inside of the course, I can click that. It'll turn into a little green check mark, and that means that the students can see it. If you have the no sign, then the students cannot see it. When I click this plus, I have the ability to add stuff to my module. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead, but when I've got my add module or my add whatever, assignment, quiz, file page, whatever, I can add different things with this module. I can either create them here inside of this box, or I can create them beforehand. So for example, if I've already created some assignments, you would see them listed down here in this box. Or, as you can see here, I can simply just click on new assignment and create a new assignment. So depending on how you want to set things up, will sort of determine how this looks and how you work through it. But either way is fine. You can either create your assignments beforehand or your quizzes or discussions, whatever, and work through them that way. Or you can create them from this box right here. I see that there's a so we've created our module, we put something inside of it, we can lock it. Now that we've got this set up, we can go about adding an item. So let's go ahead and first let's add a header. So I went through that a little quick. Over here on this little plus sign, I can click this little plus, and here's where I can add stuff to my module. And the first thing I'm actually going to add is a header. This is just a text header. It's not a assignment. It's not anything to interact with. It's just something to help break up the information inside of the module. So depending on how much stuff you have inside of here, you could sort of break it up a little bit using one of these text headers. So I'll just call it Unit 1, maybe Module 1 has Unit 1 and Unit 2 in it, and I can choose whether or not I want to indent it. And I'll add that item there. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on with my voice this morning, but I'll add that item there. And then just to have something in there. And then real quick, I'm going to talk about how to use these modules inside of here. And we'll see this a little bit later on once we get more stuff. But I do want to sort of hit the idea right now that you can put prerequisites and requirements on these modules. And what that means is that you can force your students to go through these modules sequentially, and you can force your students to go through them module by module. So let's say that I had 10 modules here, and I wanted them to all be done in order, and I wanted them to be done sequentially inside of each module. So if I had 5 things in here, they had to do thing 1, then they had to do thing 2, then they had to do thing 3, right? So I can do that using my prerequisites and my requirements. I'll need to put a little bit more stuff in here to make that happen, but I did want to point that out right now. That is a thing that we can do. Okay, now that is set up, and that would be here under the edit the edit button here. We've got and like I said, we need to add a little bit more stuff to make this work. So let's go ahead and add that stuff. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to make myself real quick sort of jump around. I'm going to add a assignment to this. And like I said, and I'll do that again. I can hit this little plus over here. I can choose new assignment because I don't have any here. And I'll just call this text assignment. And I'll choose add item. So I've got the assignment here, but basically this assignment is also just a shell. Remember, I said you could either create them inside of the module like I just did here, or I could create them with the assignment tab over here on my navigation. But the thing about this is I just created that. It's really nothing more than a shell anyway. So if I click on it, you see that there's no content in here. So very quickly, I'll just come up to the top and I'll hit edit. And we will get much more in depth into assignments later on. But for the time being, just to have something in here, I'm just going to say okay, just a quick, simple text submission. And like I said, we'll go through all these things later on. I just want to stick it in here so we have something inside of our module. Okay, so we've got our module 1 here. I've got my text header that we made, and then we've got our text assignment. And you can see in this particular instance that I have this little check mark here, so that means it's published. The rest of the module is not. So if I were a student and I went home, I would not be able to see these inside of the student view, right? Because nothing has been published. So from this text assignment, I'll go ahead and I'll publish unit 1, and I'll publish this module. And then I'm going to hit these 3 dots, and this is where that requirement comes in. I can come down here to these 3 dots and choose edit. And then under the edit, I have the ability to add a requirement. And if I open up that requirement, it says, you know, what do I want my students to have to do so that they can get through here? Do I want my students to complete all the requirements? Do I want them to move through the requirements in sequential order? And then I could choose what I want them to do with each assignment. You know, in this one, I only have this one particular assignment. So do I want them to view it? Do I want them to mark it as done? Do I want them to submit the assignment? Or do I want them to score at least, whatever percentage, right? Since this isn't scored, there isn't any points over there. So I can choose how I want my students to navigate through my course, no matter how early I set it up. I'll go ahead and remove this requirement for now. I'll update that. You'll notice that we did not have any prerequisites, and that's because this is the first module. There's nothing in a second module that I would have to run through, so I only have one module. The prerequisites will show up in modules 2 and above. Okay, I'm assuming everybody's doing okay. Hope I'm not going too fast for you. So since I have this, I'm just going to go ahead and add a few more modules in here just to get some content, some information in here. So give me just a second. I'll add module 2. And I'll add module 3.
Hey Scott, this is Nick. You just had a quick question in the Q&A.
Yes.
So why would you lock something? Is that how you post something at a certain time, like Google Classroom?
To an extent, yes. So you might lock something if you did not want your students to have access to it, but you wanted to show them that it was there. So let me pull up that's a good question. Let me go ahead and just pull up another course and I'll show you what it looks like. If I go to here, this is another course that I've already built out, so don't worry about what it looks like. But I'll come down here and I'll just pick this module and I'll lock it. Till then. Okay, and now for my student view, if I go to my modules and I go down, you'll see that the module is locked, but the students can still see what's inside of it. So if you wanted to give them a sense of what was coming up, but you did not want them to be able to get into it and actually interact with it, that's when you would lock it. So perhaps you had maybe semester 1 and semester 2, or quarter 1 and quarter 2, and you had that stuff already set up. You could put that lock date in there. The students would have an idea of what was coming up. They'd be able to see whatever assignments were there or whatever, but they would not be able to get into it until it automatically unlocks. Plus, the other good part is it automatically does it for you, so you don't have to remember to do it. I hope that helps you out. And while we're here, let's go ahead and talk quickly. I'll jump back into my other course that we were building. Talk quickly about that student view. Canvas has a really neat built-in feature that allows you to see what a course would look like, well, if you were a student. So you can get to this when you click on Home. Okay, and whatever that home happens to be, if you click on Home to the right-hand side, you'll see a handful of features over here. One of them is to publish. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the other one is this student view. So if you choose student view, you essentially get a fake student that Canvas generates for you. And so if you really ever want to see what something looks like as a student, all you have to do is click on that button. You can look down at the bottom. It'll tell you in this big pink banner that you're logged in as a student, but you could take quizzes as a student. You could navigate through the course. You can complete assignments as a student, and you can actually even create grades as a student. If you ever want to reset it, you simply reset it. So let's say that you were doing some modules or something, and you had to view it, and you've already viewed it and you want to reset it and see what it looks like brand new, you just come down here and reset student. I had nothing to reset. And then, but it will tell you that the student has been reset successfully. And then to get back, you come down to the lower right-hand corner and you choose leave student view. So that is a nifty little feature that's inside of Canvas that Classroom really didn't have to sort of help you navigate and see what's going on. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look now at our assignments. Assignments will be the sort of like the little third section that we have here. And I assume everybody's doing okay. I don't want to get too overwhelming too quick. But long story short, we've got our modules. Now we need to put something inside of them. So if you're following along, I'm getting ready to pop into adding assignment number 3. And as I've mentioned before, there are 2 ways to get assignments into your module. You can do it either through this little plus here and choose assignment, or you can come over to the assignment tab over here on the left-hand side on your course navigation. And you can create your assignments up here with the big blue plus assignment button. Either one of them are going to do the same thing. It's just a matter of how they're going to do it. If you do it through the module aspect, so if I come over here and I'll just add another assignment in here, click the plus, choose assignment, choose new assignment, give it a name. Assignment 2, and hit add item, it's going to give you that empty shell first. Okay, and then you have to click on it and you have to click edit. So that's one way of doing it. When I click edit, I'm essentially at the same point, and as you can see over on the left-hand side here, it actually brought me into that assignments tab. So if I were to cancel this and go back to assignments, you can see here I've got my assignment 2. It's still here. That shell is still here. There's nothing inside of it. But I'm on the assignments tab. I'm not on the modules tab. So that is something that you know, I don't want to say it's confusing or hard, but these 2 over here, your modules, your assignments, and as a matter of fact, all the other things, when you create something inside of your module tab, it'll just basically create the shell for you and then pop you to the appropriate tab. So like I said, it all depends on what your workflow is and what works best for you. So let's get rid of these. I am in the assignments tab. So either I could come in here, or like I said, if I click plus assignment, it basically brings me to that same thing after I hit edit. Okay, so I'll cancel this. Here's that assignment 2. I'll click on it. I'll hit edit. And here you can see, once again, I'm in the same place. Okay. I do see that somebody's asked where the PowerPoint is. Those PowerPoints are on the that training site. So let's see, go. The same training site that you went to.
I threw the link in there.
Thank you very much. Awesome. So walking through this, we've got our assignments here, and we've got our title up here. So like I said, it's assignment 2. And this is our rich content editor, this big area right here. Okay, this area basically allows us to not only put information in, just like you would have inside of a Google Classroom assignment, but it allows you to do a lot more than simply just putting stuff in there or typing, right? You can format things in here. We're going to come back a little bit later on when we get super fancy with it in 3 and 4 if you decide to stay around for that. But for now, you can do a lot of really cool stuff inside of here simply with the tools that are sitting in front of you. You'll probably recognize this little bar up here. It looks a whole lot like, you might find inside a Word or something like that, and it works essentially the same. So if I were to make your assignment today, and there are tons of assignments, we'll talk about different types that there are, but once again, we'll stick with a simple text one, and we'll say, please compare the Avengers to Macbeth. We have our straight text here. And if we leave it like that, which is fine, that's what the students will see. Obviously, up at the top, we can bold things. We can italicize things, simply highlight them and click the button, or click the button for like our underline, oops, and start typing. You can change the text color, the background color, and you can align things, you can indent them. You even have some, superscripts, some subscripts, and, our order list. So I could put it in here. Let's take off that underline. You can see the underline is on because it's got that little arrow underneath it. Make sure to include, and then I can hit my little bullet list, or up there, enter. Then I hit my bullet list. Character development, this setting, and I don't know, background. All right, whatever. Anti. So you have those things in there. You can bullet them that way. You can order them that way. And you can set up your assignment to sort of look a little bit more orderly than just typing things in there and putting in spaces. You can insert tables, of course. Now remember, tables are for data. They're not for sorting things out. So sometimes, and I've been on YouTube a time or two, and I see people say, hey, if you want to design this cool little page in here, you can just use these tables. I would advise against it. Tables are for data, and if you want to get fancy with that kind of stuff, we have some awesome tools to make that happen, so you don't have to do it this way. But if you had a reason to put in data, you could put that in here. You can insert media, so things like YouTube videos. You can embed things like Google Google slideshows, PowerPoints, that sort of thing, docs, whatever. You can link them. You can have, like if I wanted to link this to a website, www.theavengers.com. I don't even know if it's real. You can insert that link in there, right? And then the students will be able to click on that and it will take them to the link. You can insert images, right? If you happen to have some on here, you've got, there are some in the Creative Commons that you can use, which Creative Commons, of course, are copyright free, so they're in public domain. They're good to use. Just put it in the book. The thing about, let's get rid of this. The thing about images, which is important to remember, so I'll just choose this one, is that with our images, we also have what they call the alternative text, the alt text. And if you have students who need to use the screen reader, and there's a screen reader built into here, but there's also the Google Read and Write one. If a student has visibility issues, they'll more than likely be using the screen reader. And when that screen reader hits that image, it's going to read what that alt text is. So if I choose this bookshelf and I just say picture of bookshelf, when the screen reader gets down to this image, it's going to actually read out loud picture of a bookshelf. If it's purely decorative and there's no need for the screen reader to acknowledge it, I can click this decorative image button. And that way the screen reader will just ignore it like it's not even there. Right? But I can put these in there, and you can sort of resize them a little bit inside of here. You have the ability to add things from YouTube. Now you can either search and embed it from this, or if you happen to have the actual URL of the YouTube video, you could paste it inside of this box. All right, and I'll put that in there. Get some more spaces underneath here. And then we have our commons. So if you use the Creative Commons, there are some things in there. You can add things from your Google Drive. It'll ask you to link it. Now, these are not creating assignments inside of here. I'm sorry, this is not creating like a Google assignment where you get a copy for each student. This is if you had something that you wanted to send out to everybody. You could attach it that way. And it'll put like your Google slide inside of there. Or you could even record and upload your media. So let's see if it'll let me do this. So inside of here, this is with this little drop down here. It says record, upload media. You can either upload a video or audio file that you already have, or you can hit the record media and be like, it'll give you a little countdown. Hi, everybody. Hit stop. You can start it over, or you could save it. And it'll embed it inside of there. Okay. And just for fun, I'll hit save so you can see what this looks like. Obviously, it's a big mess because I got a bunch of stuff in there. But, as you go through, this is what your text is going to look like, your bullet points, your images, your embedded YouTube videos, your embedded slides. And these little slides here, this little black bars at the top and bottom, that bothers some people. So there are ways to get it in here without it doing that. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Hey, Scott, we've got a couple of different questions.
Sure.
One, can you show how to add the link again?
Yes. I'd be more than happy to do that. Let me go back here and go back in and edit this. Take all this stuff out.
And also what I like to do, I know this is probably a little bit more, and maybe I've just been in the elementary world for like 3 weeks, is I like to make images links, and that's fun too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. We can cover that as well. So to add your link, so let's say that we wanted to go to Fort Zumwalt homepage. If I wanted to link this to the Fort Zumwalt homepage, all I have to do is highlight it. And then up inside of my little bar here, there's that little chain. So that little chain is my link, right? So I highlight what I want to be linked. I click on the little chain, and then I just type in the address. Okay. And when I click insert link, see that little yellow flash that lets me know it took. And then if I were to save the page and click on it, it'll bring me to the home page. So that's an easy way to just, highlight text. If you want to do an image, let's get rid of all this. If you want to do an image, you can do the same thing. I'll come back and I'll edit it. And once again, I'll just find any old image. You can upload yours to Canvas. You do have a little bit of file storage that you can use.
500 megabytes per course.
500 megabytes per course. But on the other hand, you can reuse them between different courses. So here, I have this image of me that I'm going to use later, but we can use it now. Look at that handsome mug. Anyway, so let's say that I have this and I want to make this a link. I want to make a picture a link. So I can click on it.
Why don't you do an internal one with that one?
Okay. So I can click on it. And let's say I wanted this one to go to a page. Oh, do I have anything? Modules. Let's say that I wanted this image to go to a certain module, right? So all I have to do is click on it, highlight it, right? And then I come to the side and I choose. Now you see there's pages up here and assignments. There aren't a whole lot of stuff that I already have. So as you build things out, these will become more populated. But choose whatever it is that you want it to link to. And if I click on the item, you'll see my picture flash. So watch. Okay. So that flash lets me know that it took. If I save it, and now when I come over and I click on the picture, it's going to bring me to my modules. Okay. So in the same way that I can link things externally, I can link things internally as well. Let's go back here and.
Okay, and here's some other questions.
Sure.
Okay, this one I'm gonna. Okay, sorry, it's scrolling just down, just small enough that it's on 2 pages. Okay, if I want to set up assignment to be completed in a sequential order, do I have to include a number? Or can I set it up in the order I want with the module?
That is correct. You would set the assignment up in the order that you wanted it to be. They do not need to be numbered in any way that's meaningful to anybody but you.
And you set you put it in the order you want. You can also, there's this cool thing called prerequisites that Scott's probably going to get to a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
You can force them to do it in the order you want them to do it in. And then here's, I think we got a couple of questions with the differences between Canvas and Google Classroom. Why would I make an assignment in a module as opposed to making other assignments? I don't understand the difference. And also, will you be going how to make a copy for each student like we will be able to with Google Classroom, which I'm sure you're going to cover the Google assignments, LTI, in a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that those are our questions for now. And Nick, will our gradebook and Canvas be synced with SIS? So the question or the answer is yes. The grade passback is very nice. I'm sure in our things we have that lovely video that I've been sharing synced or linked, sorry. So what will happen eventually, it's not going to happen this moment because we're rebuilding our schedules. But once we get SIS linked back to Canvas, that will then, you'll go in, you'll link your classes at the beginning of each semester, say this class or this section with this one, this section with that one. And then you go in and then you click your assignments and then they will sync. And then so probably once a week or twice a week, you'll go in and say, okay, I'm ready to then link this assignment. And then once assignments are linked in there, like let's say you have a kid who's late, turned something in late, SIS goes in each night and does a nightly sync. So if you had that kid who turned the homework in late, it'll then pull that grade in for that thing if you've already set that assignment as linked. That makes sense. So it's just then taking that time to adding the new assignments that are then synced with it.
And to address a couple of questions there. First of all, I saw that someone was having some issues. I hope my screen's not still stuck. Um, but so the first things I was going to say is the difference between creating a module, I'm sorry, creating an assignment inside of the assignments tab or creating an assignment within the modules tab. The answer is none. There is no difference. It's just a matter of which way you get to the screen first, right? So whether I create mine, let me just hit save real quick. Whether I create mine by clicking this blue assignment button and creating this third assignment here, I'll hit cancel. Or whether I go to modules and I hit the plus and I create new assignment, and you can see my assignment starting to fill up here. I create new assignment and hit add item. Oops, gotta name it. It shows up here inside of it, but at this point, it's still just a shell. So when I click on it and I choose edit, I'm still back in the same place. So there's no difference in the way the assignment looks or the way the assignment behaves or anything that you can do with it. It's just a matter of when you're building your course out, how do you like to do it? Do you like to make all your assignments first and then go in and decide where they go? Or do you like to create a shell and say, okay, unit one, now I'm going to make all my unit one stuff. But there is no difference in how it functions, and there is no difference between how it'll work, right? Everything that you can do inside of it is exactly the same. Okay. To answer the difference about the, I'll go ahead and cancel this real quick. And I'm gonna for the question about whether or not the order that they go in, it does not matter at all. And I want to show you this other sandbox that I've got going on. So I've got these different modules here, right? I do not need to name them anything different. I happen to have because I used one of the tools that we'll talk about later. But the order that they are inside of here is the order that the students will have to follow. So if I were to take this guy and pop him up here, which I could do, right, it would then be that order that those students would have to follow. Even though it's got a different name, even if I call that module 367, it wouldn't matter. It's the order that they go in inside of the module. We'll talk about the LTI a little bit later on. And then finally, somebody asked about the plus and minus. This is just your Windows magnifier. So I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a magnifier built inside of Windows. And to get to that, all you have to do is hit your Windows button and the plus button. So if you look on your keyboard, 2 spaces to the left of your space bar, you have the little Windows button, and then you hit just the plus that's up by the backspace button.
I'm gonna just touch on Robin's question real quick. So like some like librarians and other people that aren't assigned students in SIS, you can kind of start working on pages, and when Scott gets to pages, but you kind of got a preview of that with the rich context editor and assignments, except you're just not creating assignments. When he gets to pages and starts talking about that, that will kind of help you with that. Also, when he talks about City Labs, that'll help you create that. And also, either one of us would be happy to help you out with that outside of this time. And there is a question about what a Sandbox course is and probably how to create a course. And yes, once you get to the point when everything's synced, then we will, you'll be able to copy stuff over when all the courses are kind of ready for us.
Yes, and also there's been a couple of questions. I'm glad you brought that up, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but there's been a couple of questions from librarians and maybe counselors or somebody like that who's wondering how you can get students into your course, are you going to have to type in their names individually? And the answer is no. You will not have to do that. You can essentially have students self-enroll in classes for situations like that. As a classroom teacher, I'm going to have my roster stuck in there, and that's not going to be a big deal. But if you don't have a classroom per se, then then you can add students basically and have them self-enroll in the same way that you had a link inside a classroom. So
Or
yes,
you
we
can
can
add
do
them by email. And we did have, I'll kind of cover this one because it's talking about cross-listing. So random question. So will you have a different page for each square thing for each period, or how will that work? So Canvas has this thing called cross-listing, and we did not do that in the spring because we didn't know what that term was when we got onboarded. But what cross-listing does, saves us teachers tons of time, is for each prep you have, or if you teach algebra 1 3 times and algebra 2 2 times, you'll have one course for algebra 1 and one course for algebra 2, and then your 3 hours becomes sections within that uh, algebra 1, and then you can change your due dates and assign it to those sections within there, so you don't have to do the copy thing like you had to do with Google Classroom. But grade-wise, those still sync up with SIS, and you just connect those sections with SIS with the connector tool. And it's called cross-listing. You don't have to do that yourself. We'll do that for you, but wanted to introduce the term to you. So if you have 2 preps, then you just pretty much manage 2 Canvas courses instead of five or 6.
so make things a lot easier.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we're all caught up. I'm going to go ahead and
Yep.
jump into this assignments here. This is the same one that we were working on. I'll go back to edit. Okay, so we've got our list here, our little thing, and so let me go ahead and just take it out. This is what I want my students to include in this particular assignment. Macbeth, that's new. Okay, Macbeth. There we go. I can decide what the points are worth. So, what's this assignment worth? Assignment groups are super easy and super fun and super useful. So basically, you can group your assignments by whatever grouping you would like. And not only can you do that, but inside of your gradebook, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, those groups are going to be there to help to sort of help you understand how your students are doing in those sections. Now, as and I don't want to get too far ahead. I'm of the mind that I don't want my students to see my grades inside of Canvas. I want my students to have to go to SIS. So in mine, I'm going to hide those grades because I want to drive them to SIS to look at their grades. However, I can still use these groups, and I'll just make a new group here. I'll call it a text group, and you'll see what this means in a second. So this is going to assign my assignment. This particular one, assignment 2, we'll call it like that. We're going to assign it to this text group so that later on, all my written assignments are going to go inside of this text group, and all my do your own labs thing, or all my essay ones are going to go into another group. So I can just organize my assignments in this way if you want. You do not have to use it at all. You can keep it in assignments and call it a day, but it's just helpful for organization. I can choose how I want to display the grade, if they're going to see it at all, and whether or not to count this towards the final grade. And finally, we're going to come down to this. Now, this is much more than it looks like. What type of submission do I want from my students? Okay. And by that, I mean, what do I want them to do? What do I want them to turn in from Canvas? Do I want no submission? So there's really nothing for them to do. I want them, or nothing to turn in. I want them to go in, could say, I don't know, maybe my assignment is run a mile. There's nothing for them to turn in, right? So there's nothing here. I could choose online. If I choose online, I get a couple different options for text, where maybe I want them to type in, I want Canvas to give them a little box and I want them to type into it. I could say a website. Maybe I want them to go and find a website to submit to me. Do I want them to have a media recording? So students can respond with video built inside of Canvas, or they can respond with a video that they've created and then upload to Canvas. And then finally, do I want them to respond with a file upload? So what sort of, if I want them to create a Word doc. Next semester, I'm teaching computer apps, and I want to make sure that when they turn something in, it's a Word document and not a Google Doc, right? So I could choose file uploads, and I could restrict it to allow only DOCX, which is the extension for a Google, for a Word doc, right? So you can restrict it. Maybe you just want a PDF. That way Canvas will only accept those types of files. And I can mix and match these. I can have all of these on, or I could just have one of them on. I'm going to stay with, well, I'll put media recordings in there just so you can see it. That's my online submission type. My on paper one is exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to give them a prompt, but I want them to write it on paper and pencil, like back in the olden times. Or I can choose some of the external tools. Now, this is something, and we're going to come back and we're going to hit this a little bit later. But for right now, just know that there are external tools here. And we can click this Find button, and we can use any of these already built in or already linked tools to get our stuff in. And the Google assignments and the Google Docs sort of play into this area here. So stay with me for now. In this one, we're simply going to go with online because I want them to, compare the two things. I've got my text entry, so they'll have a box to type in, and a media recording just for fun so you can see it. I can choose how many times a student can attempt this. So sometimes a student can submit and then unsubmit and then resubmit something. You can do that here, or you can say you get 1 attempt or 2 attempts or 3, right? Whatever the case might be. You can choose to make this a group assignment, and you can set up groups. You can also require peer reviews. So you can require that a student reviews another student's work, and you can automatically assign that, or you can manually assign that. And you can choose the anonymity. And then down here is where you're going to assign things to different students. So let's say that you have different courses, you have different, your sections are going to be here, as well as your students. So let's say that you have a student with IEP or a 504 and they get a differentiated assignment. You can click in this box, take out everyone. You'll find your list of students here, and then put in the students that this particular assignment applies to. Your due date is obviously your due date. Oops. You do have a time, and by default, it'll be midnight. And then the availability. So once again, as we had the locking of the modules, you can also essentially make your assignments available from date to date. And once again, this might be a thing where you want the students to be able to look at it and think about it, but not actually start working on it. So if it were a bigger assignment towards the end of the unit, maybe it was a test or an essay or something that they're going to have to put a little bit of thought into, you can make this available for them to look at They could see what it is. They could, start mulling it over in their head, but they won't actually be able to submit the assignment. So that would be, you just put the dates in here, whatever that is, and you can save it from there. I'm going to go ahead and take those out though. All right. And when we're all done, I can either hit save or I can hit save and publish. The difference being one will publish it for me and one will not. So I'll choose save and publish just because that helps me remember to do it. It tells me that it's published. It shows me what it looks like. And then I can go through, we'll talk about rubrics a little bit later on. And of course, all my links still work. The Avengers is apparently not a website. Okay, so that's a quick walkthrough on the assignments. We have a lot more to do in here, but I want to make sure that everyone's doing okay. And now would be a perfect time to talk about the differences between a Google assignment and just putting in a Google Doc.
We have a quick question. If we allow them unlimited attempts, can they resubmit after the assignment is graded?
Not as long as you have a due date in there. If you have a due date inside of your, even if you have unlimited submissions, once you have the due date, it'll lock it at the due date.
So they can take it as many times till the due date hits then?
Correct.
Okay.
And then, so we've got our thing here. I'm going to head back to my assignments, right? So we're going to make this third assignment. Matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and delete this just so we can start anew. I'll click assignment. And I'm going to call this one Google Link. Okay. So what this is going to be an assignment that I have a Google Doc for already created, right? And this is just my shop processing rules. I don't want them to do anything with this. I just want them to have it. Okay. So I could just copy and paste the whole thing and stick it in there if I wanted to, but that sort of defeats the purpose of what we're talking about. Right? I could do that. But I want them to actually have I want them to have access to this, but I do not want them to actually interact with it. I don't want to make their own copy or anything like that. That'll be a little bit later on. I got rid of my canvas, didn't I? Sure did. Where'd it go? Okay. That was weird. That's what happens when you shake the screen.
Control Shift T.
Oh. There it is. Look at that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I've got my box here, and I'm just going to put in my directions. I'm going to spell this right. Please view the Google Doc below. Okay, there's no submission for this. I'm just going to put this under info. But I do want them to be able to view it, and I do want to make sure that they viewed it. So that's why I'm putting it in an assignment, not something else. And for my submission type, I'm going to change this to external tool. And what I can do is I can take this, I can hit my share, and I want to change this so that anyone can view it, right? So make sure this is set up correctly. I'm going to copy this link. And I'm just going to paste it inside of here. I'm going to load that in a URL. Okay, so if I hit save, oops, I did that wrong, didn't I? Sure did. Scott. Oh, that's right, because we got rid of that. I'm sorry. Please neglect everything I just said. I'm going to put this in here under my Google Drive. So there used to be a thing over here. There was the Google Cloud, but now that we've got the Google assignment, it's something completely different. So please take that back. Let me step back. We're just going to view this Google Doc below. I'm going to go to External Tools. I'm going to choose Google Drive. I'll select it. And in here are my processing rules. Here I can attach it. Okay, so what this is going to do, if I hit save, it will embed this document inside of the rich content editor. Okay, so they can see this here. All right, so this is getting them the Google Doc. Of course, I could have put a link in there as well. But if I go back to assignments, generally you want to have your students have their own copy. Okay, so if you want your students to have your own copy of a Google Doc, here's the way to do that. We go to assignments, call this own copy. All right, and let's say trying to find my thing here. So I want to do, please fill out this worksheet. All right, and I've got my Google Doc here that I'm pulling up right now. And man, that is cracky. So let's say that I had this worksheet, okay, that I wanted them to fill out. And I want each student to have a copy of this. So what I'll do, after I have, please fill out my worksheet, I'll come down here, I'll fill this out as I normally would. Whatever group it's in, fill out all this. For here, I'll come down to where it says external tool. I'll go to find. And from here, I'll scroll down to Google Assignments. Now, before you get too far ahead, it's important to know that you're sort of it's going to bring up this other interface and you're going to have to link some things together. And Google Assignments currently do not copy between classes. So if you were to set this up in, a place that you were messing around, getting it ready for next year, you don't want to do a Google assignment where it makes a copy for each student with the doc because it will not copy over. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind right now. I don't know if that'll change in the future, but that's the way it is right now. So if I click Google assignment, it asks me to link it. Link it again. All right. And from here, I get this box, which is essentially the same as it was back in Google, right? So if I choose attach, there's that worksheet. You can go through your drive. You can upload stuff just like you always could. But I'll choose my worksheet here. I'll click add. And you'll see that it's going to attach, or it's going to make a copy for each student. You do have the plagiarism checker in there, but remember, we only have like, was it like three trials on your paper. So I don't know how much that affects you, but just keep that in mind. That's there, but you do have a limited use. Down here, you've got
Scott, on that, we may have a little bit more leeway on that, but It's also, that may go away because I think they're trying to get the college market. And this is a little bit more college-like, or at least because of the Canvas part. So we might be able to get more than that. I don't fully know, but I also know that they might also hit a point where they get people hooked enough they might take it away. So just
So,
take it all with a grain of salt.
yeah, you use it like you stole it. How's that?
Sounds good.
You come down and you can make sure that your total points and your due dates, these have to match what you have inside of Canvas, right? Otherwise, things just get a little wonky. So you can change this from, 100, I forget what I put. I'll just put 50. I'll put my due date in there, August 11th, sure. And then you can attach your rubrics. So if you have rubrics from your Google Classroom, you can export them to Sheets or you can import them in here. You can even reuse them. So if I choose reuse rubric, it's going to go through my Canvas courses looking for it, right? And these are all the Canvas courses that I've created. Some are still here, some are not. Um, I can't remember which ones I've attached one to or not. That's not a big deal. So I can always import it from Sheets. So if you have a rubric from your Google Classroom that you still have access to, you can go ahead, export that rubric, and I have a gajillion videos if this is something that applies to you. But you can import it from your Sheets and use it that way. I'm sure I have one in here. All right, so those rubrics, or you can create a new one right here. All right, so it all depends on what you want to do. But if you're using a Google assignment and you want to use the rubric, you can still reuse that rubric and still use it in the same way that you did when you were inside of Classroom. So it'll actually bring up the little frame that you can work inside of it. All right. When you're done, you hit create. And then you hit select again. And now you're good to go. Make sure everything matches. Okay, and you can come down, assign it to whoever, do your attempts and all that like you normally would, and then hit save and publish so it's good to go. Okay. And this is, there you go. Now it uploads. So as the teacher, this is what you're going to see. And of course, the student would get essentially the same view. They would be able to open this up and go through and finish out filling out the worksheet. Left a little note to myself in there. But like I said, you do want to be very careful with this, simply because currently it won't copy from one to the other. So if this is something that you'll be using, you can create a blank for it inside of like your template and then go through and add those in. I feel like I fed you with a shovel real quick. Is everyone doing okay? I ask my screen that I can't see anybody on. I figure in a minute or two, we'll just give ourselves a second because I got to go get some more water. So why don't we take like, I don't know, 5 minutes. It's 9:14 now, 9:15. Let's go ahead and take like 5 minutes. We'll go ahead and that way I can go into a little bit more water, and I'll see you guys back here at 9:20. Sound good? Sure. Okay. Okay, and welcome back. Let's go ahead and jump in here and head on back into our Canvas course here. I'll go ahead and turn my face off so you don't have to worry about that. Before we head into the next section there, I do want to go ahead and show you the what these assignments look like.
Um, Scott, we've got a couple of questions.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So with Canvas and LTIs, which basically means stuff outside assignments that are done by third parties outside of Canvas, they don't like when you're like if I'm sharing from like one teacher to another, um, and what we're kind of doing, kind of having this set up for like our elementary ones, we've set up the template course, or not the template assignment.
Uh-huh.
The Google Doc, which is a forced copy, and then we say, here's what you need to do. And then because you want it associated with your account, if that makes
So
sense.
so you're using a link instead of the
Well, if you're creating something to share with others, if you're doing it for yourself, you're fine.
Oh yeah, okay. Yes.
But let's say you're working with your PLC and creating a whole course, then altogether, then you would want to link, okay, this is our example assignment, and you'd want to do a link to that example assignment. And what I would say, and what we've been doing, is the forced copy, where you click the link and it forces it to make a copy of it, which we can probably link. But basically, that's with a Google Doc. There's that long part where it's all looks like a whole line of gibberish as you go up there. And thank you for showing that. And then you have where it says edit. You take the edit off there and you change it to copy. And then when you click that, that pops up. So then it makes a copy of that document. So then that would be your, it's the questions you're asking in the worksheet, the whatever you want the students to do as their assignment, that then it would distribute just like in Google Classroom.
Yeah.
But then you're not messing up the one thing in Google Drive and you've totally messed up your original.
Yeah. Yes.
That's why you do the copy document. But that's only if you're kind of sharing from teacher to teacher, if that
Yes.
makes sense. Because if you copy a whole course and it's a Google assignment in there and it's fully done in there and you've done it on yours, well, guess who's getting all the assignments in someone else's classroom? It's going to be you. So if you're doing that as a group type thing, then you just kind of need to think that out.
And as an aside, that works for, you know, sheets and presentations
Yeah.
and slides
And
and everything else. So you just take that last part where it says edit, take out the word edit, type in the word copy.
And just like in Google Classroom, they just click the submit button on the in the Google Assignments type end.
Yes.
They have that same similar
It's
button.
their same familiar setup that they've seen before. Yes.
And let's see here. What are other questions? And we'll get them there. We'll teach the kids how to use Canvas. If we're going to teach kindergartners, we can teach the high schoolers. And the middle schoolers too. We'll get them there. I will tell you, at least from, and we kind of have to look at this from a global point of view. No matter what happens this semester, from a parent point of view, from this a general point of view, I love Google Classroom, but if you're going into Google Classroom as a parent, it provides you very little information. And how can you help your student? Let's say, a student gets sick for 10 days, or they're just regular sick. They have a cold. It's a regular everyday cold, and they're out for a couple of days. well, they can keep up with this because they can go with it, and their parents can help them because they can fully see pretty much everything except for discussions. Because with discussions, we either have to open that up all the way, and we're not going to because of COPA for PASIPA. But they can actually see the full course and be able to help guide their student a little bit more than just a short description that Google Classroom gives you. So you kind of have to look at it from that way because there was such frustration from that part of parents. And if we end up hitting whatever we may hit, because who knows, we could, we could be all face to face and fine. We could be spotty. We just don't know. But this will provide that communication, what's going on in their classrooms, and providing ways to help students and make that communication a lot clearer for our parents and our students.
And just to that point, in case you're wondering what it does look like from the parent side, um, I happen to have, and my poor wife has been, she works for the district over there at South Middle. She's been my guinea pig for a great deal of these things. But, I have her enrolled as a parent in this course. So if she were, she's a parent. This is exactly what a parent sees when they go to the assignment. They see the assignment, they just don't get a chance to submit it. But they see everything that's in there. If they were to
Yeah,
walk
it's a read-only view.
if they were to walk through this, they would see what's going on up here. They would see my rubrics. They would see a great deal of things that they were not seeing inside of Google Classroom, just without the ability to actually, you know, submit anything. The discussions, like you said, they won't be able to see. I don't have any in here anyway, but they'll be able to see what's going on, but they can't take the quiz. They can see that there's one there, but they can't take it. So the amount of, I guess, transparency that they have is a lot more. Okay, so let's see what this looks like from our student side. So I'll just go ahead and head home so I can get my student view. And if I go to student view, you'll notice, first of all, they only have one module because that's the only one that I published. But if I go to the text assignment, remember this was the one that I wanted them to tell me what they did this summer. The thing about Canvas, which isn't a big thing, but I was sort of, something that I had to keep in mind, and something that we'll probably have to tell our kids is you do have to actually go to submit assignment to submit it. So you see, please tell me what you did last summer. And I know that they're supposed to write into a text entry box, but there's nothing there to type in. So I'm going to head up and I'm going to choose submit assignment. I still get my prompt, but now I can actually come in here and paste in what I did, or type in what I did. And they have the same tools that we have. They can still upload things from their Google Drive. They can still uh, link things. They can put in pictures and media, or they can just say, I slept, which is what they'll say anyway. And then they can submit the assignment. So in this particular case, they can go through, they can add this in. Get the little array. This is a fun little thing as well, in case there's ever any confusion about whether they turn something in or not. In the right-hand corner, it says submitted. You submitted this, and that's that, right? Let me head back to my assignments real quick. We also have this one. Or actually, I think I'll go in order. This is the own Google Doc. So this was the Google assignment that we used. And when they hit continue for that, excuse me. Like I said, I don't know how well this is going to work because I'm the teacher of the teacher, but you go through and fill this out. Obviously, I'm me, so I'm still messing with my own thing here, but whatever. They could go through and add that in, type that up, and they would have a submit button. But it knows that I'm the teacher, so it doesn't really apply on this particular one. And then I'll see if I can set one up for later on though. And then for the assignment 2 that we had, remember we had our link here. And this one says a text entry box or a media recording. So I can go back to submit assignment. And when I come down, now I've got these two tabs, right? I can either do the text entry or both, depending on what you're asking them to do. You know, they are both cool. Or they can come to the media part. Now, I don't know if I would, I would sort of tell them you don't want to make like a 30-minute rambling video on this. And I don't think a student's media will account against your quota, but still, be like, give me a 30 seconds or a minute. If they click record, they will get the same options that we had before. So I have a bunch of different mics on here. Otherwise, it would bring it up automatically. But when I talk, you can see the little line moving down here. So that lets me know that my voice is going. And then you can start recording. You get your countdown again. Macbeth and the Avengers are both cool because they're cool. And you hit finish. You can start over or you can save. There's no trimming. There's no, editing in this part. It's either all or nothing. So just something to keep in mind depending on what it is that you want them to be able to do. They've got their, you'll see the little thumbnail pop up here. They can add in comments. Here's my thing. And they submit the assignment. So coming back at it from the teacher side, when I go to these, I'll start seeing them, and we're going to talk about our gradebook here in a minute. But if I were to open this up.
Scott, a quick question. Can parents see what the students actually submitted, the students' answers?
You know what? I haven't tried that. I believe the answer to that is yes, but I'll tell you what, in just a few minutes, we'll go through and we'll actually check.
And I wonder, and maybe on assignments, but maybe not on assessments.
Yeah, I would probably also think that's the case. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to get too far out of my thing here, but if I bring that up, I bring this up.
We
Yeah,
can parking lot that and come back to it at the end if we need to.
making a quick note. Can parents see student submission? The other good part about the parents part is add them in like you did inside of Classroom.
Yep, we're gonna automate that as much as we can.
Of course, that's if they filled it out right in SIS, that's where that goes to. But okay, so we have our modules here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump back into that slideshow. I'm now on number 4. This is the multi-tool, and this is something that is sort of outside. And I'm putting it here because I think it's going to speak a lot to those super organized teachers. I admire you. I am certainly not one of you. I'm organization is probably. I mean, I'm organized. I'm just in my own way. I know what I'm doing. Just I don't know if anybody else can figure it out. But I know that there are a lot of people who like to set up as much as they can at the beginning of the course. So that's why I'm going to jump in. I'm going to talk about this multi-tool here. This is not something that you have to use. So, if this gets a little crazy for you or something, I have plenty of stuff on it. Nick has plenty of stuff on it. We can talk about it, but I don't want you to feel overwhelmed like you have to use it because you don't. It's just a tool to help you out. We've created these modules here. And the thing about, as we talked about, the modules being essentially the backbone of your course, the shell, the building blocks that everything is there. You may have a way that you want to set everything up beforehand. You may have, that you're going to have 10 modules. and you know that you're going to have an assignment inside of each of those modules, and you know you're going to have a quiz or a discussion board or whatever the case might be. So there's a tool inside of Canvas that we got that'll allow you to set those up quickly and easily. Let me show you real quick what one of those would look like. If I go back here and I go to this course that I already have, you know, I've got my week 1, my week 2, my week 3, my week 4, my week 5, right? And inside of each one of those, I have an assignment, or I'll have a quiz, or I'll have one or both of those things. If you know how this is going to get set up for you, then you can use the multi-tool to make that happen. So I'm going to go back to my course. And the first thing you have to do is enable it. So I'll come down to settings. And then I'll go up to the top where it says navigation. And then all the way down at the bottom, there's this multi-tool. Now, the students won't be able to see this, so you don't have to worry about hiding it or anything like that. But I'm going to click these 3 dots, and I'm going to click enable. Okay, now it's going to pop back up here. Don't be like because I did that, and I was like, okay, I'm done, and I went to go look for it, and I'm like, where'd it go? Once you enable it, you also have to save it. So you click the little save at the bottom. And this multi-tool is going to pop up here on your left-hand side. So I'm going to click this. Now, do not be overwhelmed by this. I'm going to skip over this template builder. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're not going to worry about the due date modifier or any of those things. Here in the first part, we're just going to worry about the module builder. So I'm going to open up the module builder. And what this is going to do is it's going to go out and it's going to look at the modules I already have. So it sees that I have 1, 2, and 3. If I open those up, it also sees that there's nothing in there. I could add more stuff. So it knows, you know, I have this assignment in here, I have this header, whatever. And I could maybe delete these if I wanted to. So I'm going to delete this module. I really don't need it. And I'm going to delete this one as well because there's nothing inside of them. And remember, this is pulling directly from my module tab here, right? And everything that I do here happens in the module tab. I deleted those 2 modules and now they're gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this tool to build out the shells for the remainder of my course. So I'm going to come down to where it says module pattern. This is the pattern that I want my modules to follow. I can be specific and I'll be able to still go in and edit everything that I create from here. So if I choose the module prefix, well, what do I want to call them? I'm going to call them all modules. Am I going to call them days or topics or units or weeks or whatever? I'll just go ahead with modules since I already have one. And I'm going to make, I don't know, let's see, I need 5 modules total. So I need 4 more, and I'm going to start with number 2. And I know that inside of each of my modules, I'm going to have a header and at least one assignment. And maybe I'll have a quiz. Now, I haven't built these things out yet, the quiz especially. So maybe I want to hold off for that on now. That's not a problem. You can go back in and add them back in if you want, but I'll just keep it simple. So I want a text header for each one of mine, and I want an assignment for each one of mine. Let's say a discussion board as well. If I happen to know what kind of assignment it is right now, I can, if I already had it made, if I was going to make them do that text assignment each week, I could put that in, but I'll leave it blank for now. If I happen to know what type of submission it's going to be, I can put that in now, but I don't have to. And when I'm done, I'll choose Generate Module List. What this is going to do is it's going to generate these modules, starting with number 2, with the prefix module, and it's going to make 4 of them. but it's what it's done here. Okay, now these are still sitting inside of like a temp file, right? They haven't been created yet. They're just sitting here on this page. And I know that sometimes we get pulled away. Sometimes, you know, we got to do stuff. So you can save your progress. If you start working through this and you're like, no, I need something else or whatever, you get pulled away. You don't have time for it. You can save the progress, and you have 2 weeks to come back and play around with it again before it'll get deleted. Within these modules that it generated, I can then go through and I can be a little bit more specific in here. So what do I want these module titles to be? So it's going to be trees. This is going to be birds. It's going to be rocks. This is going to be and things. Just don't sing it, copyright. So I could take these and I'm just going to copy them into the headers because that's what I want the headers to be. And now I have a chance to get more specific inside of these modules. For example, if I know my trees module is not going to have a discussion, I can take that out. But I do know it's going to have 2 assignments. And I know that one of them is going to be the text assignment. And I know that I don't need this discussion board here. And I can go through and I can insert or remove things as necessary inside of these modules. And when I'm all done, you know, like I said, I can save the progress. But when I'm finished, I'll come back and I'll choose Add Modules to Course. Now, when you click this, you'll see these boxes over here pop up. Don't leave before there's a check in all of them. The page will refresh, and now I have my modules set up here. As a matter of fact, if I go to my modules page, I have everything set up here in the order that I wanted, right? So now I'm free to go through and actually edit these assignments. And this goes back to the fact that you can create modules inside of, I'm sorry, the fact that you can create assignments inside of modules, or you can create them inside of the assignments things. Like we talked about earlier, there is no difference between the actual assignment itself. It's just how it gets created. So now I can go through with this module. I can click on this, come up to this assignment. It's already been named for me. I can click edit. And I can add in any part of my assignment that I have here, you know, please, right? Fill it out, add it up as you normally would. And I'm free to finish building out my course that way. Oops, I went to the wrong thing. Module there. Okay, so this is just an easy way for those teachers who are very organized or who know exactly what they're going to do. If you have a, you know, a curriculum that your department follows or something like that, and you exactly know this module is going to be here and this one's going to be here and this one's going to be here, you can set that up beforehand. Notice that none of these are published yet. So my students aren't even going to see them. If they go home and I go to my student view, the only one they're going to see is module 1 because none of the rest of them are published yet. And then as time goes on, let's leave the student view, Scott. As time goes on, I can then go through, okay, now we're up to the trees module, so I can turn that on. I can publish all those inside of there, and then my students will have access to that. Once again, the difference between locking and not publishing is whether or not the students know that it's there or not. If I were to lock the trees one, they'd be able to see it. Matter of fact, I'll show you what that looks like. I'll lock it. Okay, so now it's locked. As a student, I can see it, and I can see that there are those assignments in there, but I can't get in, right? As opposed to modules 3, 4, and 5, which I don't even know exist. And that's because those haven't been published. So I hope that clears it up. And like I said, this tool is something that is there for you to use if you want to. You do not have to. If you look at it and you're like, what's going on with this? You don't ever have to touch it again if you don't. But it is an incredible time saver, especially if you start finding yourself doing the same, couple of things over and over and over again. You can always go back to it and add more, right? I can jump back in here and it says, okay, Scott, we've already got modules 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I could restart the whole process again. So you don't have to do the whole year. Let's say that you had, just a quarter or a couple of units that you just knew how they were going to be. You can use this to help save some time, but it's not by any means, anything that's going to lock you in. And even as it sits, I can still go back in and I can still add more things. Oops, plus. I can still add more things inside of here, more assessments, more assignments, any things that I've already had. And as you can see, as I go through this, it starts to add more things to my list here. But I can still add those things in if I want to. I can still delete, and I still have full control over everything that I have. Okay. So please don't feel like you're stuck inside of it. If you use it once, you're stuck using it. It is a tool, but it does not lock you into anything. Okay. Everybody with me so far on there? Okay. Let's take a few seconds and talk about the grade book. So as I teach, as a teacher, if I come over here to grades, I'm going to get a list of my grade book. Now, as I said before, especially with things like, you know, weighted grades and that kind of stuff, I'm not going to want my students to see that inside of Canvas. I'm going to want to drive my students to SIS. If you're just doing straight points, it may not be that big of a deal for you, but especially if you're doing weighted stuff, you're certainly going to want to drive them to SIS. And to make that happen, before we get any kids in here, I'm going to want to come up to this gear in the upper right hand corner. This guy right over here. And I'm going to want to open him up. And I'm going to want to set my grade posting policy to manual. Any assignments that I already have inside of here that have posted, the students will still see them. So if you've forgotten to do this for the first couple of assignments or whatever, not a big deal. You come in here, you turn it on, but they're still going to be able to see the ones that were in there. While we're here, if we take a look at the top, we also have some late policies. So depending on how you want to set your classroom up, you can also automatically apply a grade for missing submissions. So if they're missing it, 10%, whatever you like to do. You can also automatically apply deductions for late submissions. So if you say you want to be 10% per day that they're late, lowest grade that they could possibly get is 50. And it's going to automatically reduce that for you. Okay? That can be however you want to do it inside of your grade book, but it is an option that you have there. Once again, you can still do it manually if you'd like, but if you want to have a thing set up where this is my policy, 10% a day, whatever the case might be, then that is something that you have access to. So when you bring this up, most of the things inside of Canvas are going to be automatically generated in here as you create them anyway. You know, as you go through and you click inside of here, most of these are going to populate as you're grading. And we'll take a look at how that looks in a little bit, but you may want to go through, add, subtract, you know, raise or lower a grade depending on a myriad of reasons. You can do that inside of here simply by clicking and typing in there, right? Now you'll notice as soon as I did that, this little eyeball came up, this little, you know, hidden eye thing. And once again, that is because I have those grades hidden from the student. So that's just letting me know that the student cannot see that grade. And as I go through and fill out the rest of them, they'll continue to pop up. You can see my different parts are unpublished. That's just let me know that that they're not published yet, which is why there's nothing in them. And for your grades, as you click on each one, there's a small little flyout here. And this is sort of like your comments inside of SIS. Now, somebody brought me to the attention that I can do some really cool things the other day. When I click that little pop out, let me get rid of this thing here because it's in the wrong spot. There we go. For this little pop out here, so all I have to do is click inside of the cell and I get this little pop out. I can choose what my status is for this. Maybe it was late 10 days. Maybe it was missing. Maybe it was excused, right? And I can put my comments down in here. Once again, it all depends on how, you know, how much you're driving your kids to SIS to see these things. But also it's good to keep a record in here. And I don't know if the passback will bring the grades between here and SIS, but I can tell you that there is a, like we talked about earlier, there is a way to get your grades out of here and into SIS so you don't have to enter them manually twice. Okay, something that somebody brought me up to the other day that I was didn't see the first time around. The colors in here don't match what they are in SIS, right? Missing in SIS is yellow, where here it's red. But if you go up to view and you go to, what was it? Was it actions? What was view? Statuses. Let me do that again. View, statuses. You can change these colors around a little bit. So I want my missing to be yellow, just like it was in SIS. And, you know, the rest of them can be whatever color, you know, that doesn't bother me. But that missing one was something that I was really, really wanting to make match. So, matter of fact, I can make this bright yellow. If I happen to know the hex code, which I do, there you go. Now anything that's going to be missing is going to show up in that nice bright yellow. There we go. If you put in a grade that's higher than it should be, so if I put in like 110, it's not really going to do anything. But if I put in something crazy like 220, I will get this little banner up here. And as I pull open the, it tells me that it's unusually high. So I know that, you know, you've probably never had a keying error where you accidentally gave one kid 10 points and another kid 1,000, but I've done that before. So as you know, you're going through and you're typing and you know, hit an extra key and that grade goes off the chart. This will actually let you know that as well. So that is something that you have access to. Okay. So let's go through. I'll see if I can throw a couple of grades in here. You know, this in. This in. And the last part I want to bring you to your attention here is that for the different types of assignments I had, remember I said I had those assignment groups that I made back when I was making my assignments. You know, I had my text group and my info group. Here you can see the group is actually graded by group. I still have my total points. I got that crazy grade in there somewhere. Yeah, because I have, these are both out of 0. That's why it's so high. But so if you are going through and you can look and see like, okay, all my assignments in the info group are a little bit low, so maybe I need to go back and check that again. Maybe there's a bad question or a bad quiz or something like that in there. So you can go through and check these assignments towards the end, and they'll be grouped out. Your total points will still remain total points, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, this isn't going to affect anything. It's just going to keep you a running total and let you know. Okay, because I have 50 out of 0 there. If I were to bring that back down to a normal number, just put 0 in there. Okay, and this one is also. So now you can sort of see how that would, look. But the different groups can show you different percentages. So if you see one that's really high or one that's really low, you can go back in and take a look at it. Is there anything really inside of the grade book that we have questions on? We'll see a little bit more of this later as we start adding stuff in and using it. And also, I do want to mention that I believe Hannah made this, Hannah Dykeson, over there at Westhoff. Anyway, she's really good with this. She's really awesome at Canvas, and she went ahead and she made this this option slide that you have. This is also inside of that shared folder, so it's all in there. This is number 6, and it just shows you, which item do you want to use, depending on what they're interacting with, what they're doing, and you can sort of look at it and figure out, okay, here's what I want my students to do. So you can work backwards and figure out what type of content to make. I just want to point that out because that's in there. All those content types will still be available to you inside your modules, whether you create one of these, a quiz, a file, a page, whichever. But all those things are also over here on the left-hand side. Okay, so that wraps up the first one. Level 1 was kind of big. Level 2 only has a couple of things in it. I hope everyone's feeling okay. I feel like I'm feeding you with a shovel, but
Okay, Scott, we've got a couple of different questions.
sure.
And let me just kind of clarify. So we had a question about adding using Google Forms in Canvas, which you can do. And you could points-wise, or so that you don't have to do it twice, because that then added another question. You could put it in, you could create the assignment in Sys, or not in Sys, I'm sorry, in Canvas, and just plug in the answers in there. And then use that to sync into Sys. So you wouldn't have to put it in twice. I just popped in my head and I just said Sys. So either way, but unfortunately, it does not pull the point total from the Sys test or the Sys form into Canvas. So one way, either one spot or another, you'll have to put the points totals on the, if you're using Google Forms for the quizzes or the Google quiz, and then that would then sync over. And remember that Sys is the official grade of record. So points wise, and I have a thing that I can share up there, is I would turn off so that you're not continually going back and forth and trying to make your gradebooks match, is there's a spot on the course thing under more options that says do not show total, the final total in Canvas. I'd turn that off because then they know, they could see what they got on individual assignments, which is totally fine, but their total grade, they need to go to SIS to see that because that's the official grade of record, if that makes sense. And I wouldn't try to do that percentage point in Canvas because it's, now you can set up your groups to make that easier, but I wouldn't try to do the percentages in Canvas to save that. Do not show final grade. And I'll upload that to the stuff with this one, but it's right under more options if you go to settings for a course. Course details, yep. And then go down towards the bottom and click more options. And then you go a little bit more, and that is hide totals and students' grade summary. And then they don't see their total grade score, but they can see all their points for individual assignments, which then if they want to see what's my final grade, then they go to SIS, and that's that's our official grade of record. So they just go into SIS, which will of course be linked off of somewhere off of Canvas too for them, if that makes sense.
Just real quick for those forms. Yeah, it's not going to pull it in, but you can just, I mean, take the link, create an assignment, and you could pop it in there. Let's find my assignment. There you go. So you can do it that way. And I haven't tried it, but since we're right here, we can give it a whack. I will also, so you could do it that way. But there's also this embed code, and I wonder, you could take this and copy this as, my regular old Woods form. I'm sorry, my regular old Google form. I could copy this. And then down here,
Second icon, there you go. Middle tab.
go to embed, and then paste it inside of there.
That should work. Yep.
So, and then what would that look like? That would look like, so they'd be inside of this little frame. They could go through it that way.
But if you want the lockdown stuff, then you probably want to keep it external. So
yeah, if you want that, you're just going to have to go with this. I think for something that was super duper important, I'd probably just do the link. Makes sense. Okay, so let's take a look at pages. So there's a couple different types of pages that we have, and I know that we're coming up on time. I'm willing to go a little bit longer, but I'm going to try and respect people's time here. When we come to our pages, essentially a page is something that you want the student to have information about. You can do a little bit of interaction, but not, later on we have some really cool stuff that you can do with the pages. But for a general straight up overview, pages is essentially just a way to have a, place where people can go to get information about whatever you need. So let me show you what I mean. You're like, Scott, you're not making any sense. If I come over here to the upper right hand side, I can go to this page right here. And now I have the ability to add pages. And basically, like I said, they're used for static content. Okay. Think about view only. I'm now inside of that level 2, that creating, managing pages. And you can embed all kinds of stuff in here if you want. It's the same editor that you've had from before. So whatever it is that you want to add to here, you can, if it's a welcome page or whatever. And we can even set it so that this is the first thing that students see. There's a bunch of tools that we have that'll do that, but we'll get to that in the afternoon sessions. So if we're just making a page from scratch, I can just call it, my new page. And maybe I just want to put in some information in here, welcome to class, talk a little bit about myself. Whichever, I come down here and I can put in my picture again. There I am, right? And I can fill this up with any of the information that I need. But like I said, this is for static info. Right, I can add that in. And all my mail addresses and all that stuff. If I had a room number or business card, whatever it is, I can put those things in here. Along with that, I can also link to other assets that I have. So if I said go to the module page here, just like I could before, I could highlight that, come over to modules, and start them off by module 1. Just click, and it'll insert it in there. I have access to all my rich content things up here. So whether it's recording the media, I want to say hi to them. I could start in with welcome to class. I could record one of those and embed it like we did before. If I had a YouTube video or any of those other things, I have access to pretty much everything that I had before. The other part is that is that I can also have different types of special pages. So while I might have this, I might also have a syllabus. So I'm going to take this page, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to publish it. Like, okay, there's that. What about my syllabus? So I come down here, I'm going to make a syllabus real quick. And inside of my syllabus, as I start adding assignments, you can see this here. It's own sort of special page, I guess is the best way to put it. As I start adding things, you can see that they populate in this course summary. Maybe I want them to see that, and maybe I don't. So if that's the case, and I probably want to add some more stuff up here anyway, I'll just click edit. And I just happen to have a old syllabus standing by. Inside here, I'll just take this info. Now, once again, I could link to the item in here, or I could just put it inside of here, but I'm going to do it this way. And I'm going to come down to where it says show course summary. I don't want my students to see that. I'm going to take that off. All right, when I update it, this is what my students will be looking at. So I can head back to my page. I can head back to my new page. And I'm going to edit this and put please check out my syllabus. Highlight that, come over to my pages. Where is it? Where's navigation? There it is. So I got that highlighted. I click syllabus. So now when I save it, my students are going to click on that, and it's going to take them to the syllabus page. You can have pages for almost anything that you want, right? Like I said, whether or not it's using it as, your syllabus or just general static information, whatever it is, you can make a page for it. You can list out pages, and as you continue to create them, you'll see them here inside of your pages tab, and you'll be able to link through them here under the course navigation or here under the pages, depending on what it is that you've created. Okay. We can do a lot of things with this, but as a straight up, get it in here and get it started, you can use this to jump in and get the kids started on the right path. But the question is, how do I make this my home page? Because if I go home, I'm still being taken to the modules page. So in order to make this work, you might have noticed over here on the right-hand side that I've got the choose home page option. And if I choose that, it says, hey, what do you want to make your home page? Well, I want my front page to be set, but I can't, right? It's grayed out. It says my front page must be set first. So if I click this link, let me get rid of my box there. If I click this link and I come over on my pages to the three dots on the side, I can use this as my front page. And if I go home, still nothing, because I have to choose the home page now. So it's a two-step process. You have to choose the home page from the Pages tab. Then you come over here and you can choose Pages front page. Hit save. Now when I'm at home, this is what my students are going to see. Welcome to class. Obviously, I put in, a little bit more info up here. I got my email address, I've got my syllabus, and I can go to my modules here. All right, and the student will be able to navigate around as easily as that. Okay, and like I do say, there are a lot of more advanced stuff that we can do, but if you just want straight up, you want to build it yourself and have it look like that, it's easy enough to do. You can take a couple of seconds and throw that in there so that they can see it, and then when they go home, that's going to be their original page. While we're here, you may have noticed these announcements up at the top. And those announcements are literally, essentially, they are what they are. They're ways to announce things. Basically, you can use them to point into other resources. You can leave messages for the entire class. You can even put a little video inside of there if you want to. And any, sort of success or really anything you want to do. I would only caution you not to have like 1,000 announcements up there. There are ways to change how many announcements show, and if you put too many up there, it can get overwhelming for the students. But let's go ahead and talk about making one real quick. I click on assignments and I go to plus assignment. I'll just do a welcome to class. I'll say, remember and bring your books to first hour, whatever. And like I said, you have access to all the tools that you had before. So you could embed a YouTube video, you could record some media, you could just straight up type it out, you can link to other things. Right, so you still have access to everything that you had before. Going to choose where you're going to post to. This is just going to go in here. And then if you come down to the bottom, you have the option to delay posting. So maybe you want to write this beforehand, but you don't want it to go up till Monday morning. So you can choose a date or time up there. Do you want students to be able to comment on it? Do you want to do, I've been trying to figure out this podcast feed for a while now. And even in the forums, they're like, I don't know. But if you had one that you wanted to link through there, you could. And you could allow liking, so the students be able to like it. Okay, so this is my announcement as I go home. I've got my home page. Last thing that I need to do, because I still haven't done this yet, if I go back to my dashboard, you'll see I still haven't published it. So no one can see this course, even if they were invited, because it's not published yet. So I'll choose publish. Now the class is visible. I want to see what this looks like from the student view. I can open it up. I've got my assignments over, or I'm sorry, my announcement over here. Welcome to class, whatever this information is. I go back to home and then I'm like, okay, we can get started working. Go to the module page, and here it is. I know that was a ton of info. So we still have a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes left. If there are any questions, before we do that, I want to remind you two things. First of all, there is a second session at noon where we're going to talk about quizzes, and we're going to talk about the design tools that we have, media recording, adding in rubrics and that kind of stuff. And then on both, today's Tuesday, right? Yeah. So on both Wednesday and Thursday, there are Q&A sessions. So you can jump in, you can ask a question if you have something specific to you or something that we've gone over that, just doesn't make any sense to you. We can go back over it. And of course, I'm, always happy to help you out either individually. We can WebEx. I'm running around the past couple of weeks, but if I'm at school or you're somewhere, I have zero problems helping you out, with anything else. And I'm not saying that I know everything, but if I don't know the answer, I can generally find somebody who does. So with that, a couple minutes early, are there any questions that we'd like for the last few minutes of our session here? Okay. So if that's the case, like I said, tomorrow, day two, um, I'm doing the Q&A from 8 to 10. And then there's some video making tools that we can talk about. And like I said, there's, a bunch of stuff in here that's trying to make it a little bit easier to get through this. I know when I first looked at it, I was a little overwhelmed too, but I think once you start, the best way to do it, at least for me, is just get in and start clicking around, and it makes things a lot easier. All these materials on this Google Sites is here. You go to the right hand side to the session recording. This will be here as well as this recording here. So when I get done with this, I'll hit stop and we'll upload it there so that you'll have access to the recordings as well. If there are no other questions, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And, like I said, I'll still be hanging around here for a few minutes. So if you want to throw me a question or whatever, I'll be glad to help you out. All right. With that said, thank you very much and have a great day. And I hope to see you back here at noon, for the remainder of the session. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.